So the first answer is, if you guys have been diagnosed with an actual mental illness, or you really think that you're mental, like you have true, like tried and true depression, you should go see a professional, right? So like I can tell you guys about this stuff, but I ultimately I can't treat you over the internet, and nothing I say in the next 10 minutes is going to cure you. I'm good, but I'm not that good. So PTSD is like a real thing. And like, if you really have it, you should go work through it with a professional, because while you can overcome, a lot of people can overcome parts of mental illness or even overcome mental illness on their own. I think that's what's happened in the history of humanity. For example, like Winston Churchill and like Abraham Lincoln both had really bad depression. And they managed to do okay in life. So it's possible. But the cool thing about the roguelike that you live in is there's a shop. And you could just go to the shop and get some mental health treatment. So go and get some mental health treatment. Like, that's the first thing you should do. Like, go and like work with an individual human being instead of some rando on Twitch who's like talking to 115 people at the same time. Because like, a real person who is dedicated to help you is going to do way better than I can ever do. Unless that dedicated person is me and you wind up in my office. So go and actually get help. So this is another problem that gamers have. They don't go and get help. You guys watch Twitch, which I love. I'm grateful. You're making me successful. Fantastic. And at the same time, like, go and actually get some help. And like, go talk to someone. And this is where, so someone's saying that, I don't know, you're sounding a lot better than all the shrinks I've had over the decades. There's a part of me that's inclined to agree with you, because I think that a lot of mental health professionals are operating from a model that's a little bit outdated. And this is where I would say, if you want to try to find like a mental health professional, go see 3, don't go see 1. And like, because mental health professionals are all about fit. Like, it's not about training, it's not about pedigree, it's about fit. So go and find someone who fits with you. Like, go, because I want you to see 3 people and then pick the one that you like the best. It's like if you're going out and buying a car, you don't go to a car dealership and just like get the first car that they have available, right? You go and you test drive 2 or 3 things and go and meet 3 people and then try to figure out who do I feel like I like and who gets me. The other thing to think a little bit about is like, see if you can find someone on the younger end. So the average like psychiatrist in America is like 55. So like go find someone who's played a video game. Like, start there. If you have a problem with gaming, because then they're going to understand you a little bit better, and it could help, right? I'm not saying that all like the psychoanalysts are bad. Like, I mean, a lot of them are brilliant, but like, I mean, one of them told me that, yeah, like I was asking her like, why do people play video games? And her answer is for the same reason they get tattoos. And I was like, lady, you may be brilliant and a professor at the Harvard Medical School, but you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So go and find someone. That's really what you should do. But I don't think you guys were looking for that simple of an answer. So dealing with and reducing PTSD, let's start there. So the first thing to understand is that PTSD is actually your body like learning an inappropriate response, right? So if we think about someone who has like a flashback or like gets triggered by something, like if you have, so I've done a fair amount of work with veterans, and if you have like if you have like someone who was like in Afghanistan or Iraq and they like, you know, got like a missile was fired at them, and then they have a trigger every time they hear like a, you know, muffler like go bang or a door slam. Your body is actually like has learned from a survival standpoint that loud sudden sounds mean death. And so when you come back to the United States, your body can't unlearn that, because it's a really important lesson to learn. Right? That's how, so PTSD, the first thing to understand is that like trauma is your body trying to adapt to a really bad situation. And so what you have to teach it how to do is to like unadapt or adapt to a different situation. So this is why people will do things like exposure therapy and stuff like that. So there are a lot of ways to deal with trauma. But I think the first thing to understand is that it's an adaptive mechanism which needs to sort of be unadapted. And beyond that, like if somebody has trauma and you guys want to like come on stream and talk about it, we can do that. Otherwise, it's like really hard for me to, I mean, it's really hard for me to answer that question in 5 minutes. I could talk about it for an hour about trauma, or I could talk to a person, but it's hard to give you a substantive answer in like 5 minutes because it's complicated. The second thing is, how do you overcome depression when you can't get yourself out of bed and the house and feel hopeless every day? So I would really think about getting professional help if that's your situation. Right? Because gamers don't reach out for help, but sometimes human beings are communal, we're communal creatures. We need help from each other from time to time. And if you need help, go and get help. It's not rocket science. If you're having trouble getting out of bed every day, go and see a professional. This is when I would think about something like medication, because I think you can overcome a lot of depression with meditation and yoga and diet. But all of that stuff requires you to get out of bed. Right? So I recently had someone in my practice who didn't want to start medication, and they wanted to do yoga and stuff, and that's great. So I asked them, how many times a week are you able to do yoga? And they're saying once a week. Well, once a week is not going to cure your depression. It's just not going to work. The dose is not high enough. So I recommended they start medication. Now they're doing yoga every day. So 6 months from now, we're going to try stopping the medication. If they stick with the yoga and if they stick with the meditation, then we'll see what happens. Right? So if you're really having trouble getting out of bed, then you should the best advice is to see a professional. But I've got 2 other points for you. The first is think about your diet. So there's a lot of recent research which shows that diet is very impactful to depression. Ayurveda has been saying this for thousands of years. So first-line treatment for depression in Ayurveda is dietary change. Change their diet. Change the diet, change the mind. And what that practically means is how can I say this? So there was a recent study where they took happy mice and they took depressed mice. They took the stool from depressed mice and did a stool transplant on the happy mice. And the happy mice became depressed. Crazy, right? So stool transplant is a whole, mice can be depressed, absolutely. So fascinating literature which suggests that, and we're starting to see, so there are also studies that show that people who have depression have certain kinds of bacteria in their gut at a way higher level than people who don't have depression. And so I think the reason that Ayurveda has been curing depression with diet for thousands of years is because when you change your diet, you change your gut bacteria, and that somehow affects your mental health. So if you guys are depressed, I'd think a little bit about what you're eating. How many processed foods are you eating? Are you getting your fruits and veggies of the day? Because all that is going to affect, and people who eat healthy, you guys know, when you start eating healthy, you start feeling better. So if you're depressed, I'd start with some basic things. Are you drinking water? Start there. Sure, go see a professional, but at home, start by drinking water. You have soda? Don't drink soda. Yeah, so caffeinated stuff is just going to throw you out of whack. It's going to give you an artificial energy boost, and then you're going to crash. Start by drinking water. In terms of fruits and vegetables, banana every morning and pineapple. There's literally, I'm going to find this paper for you because you guys are your mind is going to be blown. Crap. Can't find it. Oh. Too good to pass up. I'm going to do something really boring on stream. Find it. Crap. I saw a paper about pineapple and depression. I think I had. Let me just look. I really want to find this paper for you. Let me look at it. Here we go. Found it. Docs. So the paper is called, so I'm going to just read from, let's see if I can. So this is the journal. So a lot of this stuff is not published in the US. Doesn't a pineapple a day ruin your stomach? Like if you eat too much, sure, you can ruin it. But I'm going to read you guys. So, there are no reports in literature pertaining to CNS actions of an ananas cosmosis fruit. In light of the above, the present study was undertaken to test the antidepressant potential of pineapples. So they juiced pineapples and administered at various concentrations ranging from 5 to 20% to mice. And then they measured their depressive activity. And what they found is that the pineapple juice in mice reduced depression to the same amount as fluoxetine. Right? So it's not like a clinical study in human beings. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. But they basically, the way they test depression in mice is they like, so this is fascinating. Okay. This is going to be fun. So the antidepressant activity was measured using the forced swim test, tail suspension test, and reserpine-induced hypothermia. The efficacy of pineapple juice was compared with standard antidepressant agents, viz. Fluoxetine and imipramine. The results showed that pineapple juice significantly decreased immobility time in both forced swim test and TST models. It also reversed the hypothermia induced by reserpine. So what they do is they force mice to swim. And they depressed mice give up and they stop swimming. And then undepressed mice will keep fighting, right? And if we think about this person who's hopeless and can't get out of bed, they're not fighting. They give up and they feel hopeless. Anyway, so I don't know that, so there have been no clinical trials on pineapple and the effect of depression. I've used it in my practice to decent results with some people. But start by changing your diet. So banana, pineapple, start with those. Make sure your bowel movements are good. Go see your primary care physician. You can also get a couple of things tested, like your vitamin D level. So vitamin D has a big correlation with the depression. If you're inside all the time and you're not getting, your daily dose of sunlight, chances are that that's contributing to your low mood. The last thing is people are asking about pineapple in pizza and stuff. Eat fresh pineapple, not canned pineapple. Go and buy a pineapple. And then someone else is asking, I hear people talk about things such as LSD and shrooms to figure out your emotions. What are your thoughts on this? I think that there are a couple of very promising studies using psychedelics to treat things like PTSD and treatment-refractory depression. I've had some patients who have used it to treat addictions, and it's gone very well. At the same time, I think that things are in a very preliminary stage, and there's a huge difference between doing clinically assisted, psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy under the guidance of a professional and just getting high. So I don't think just getting high actually helps people. I think that using psychoactive substances like antidepressants, if used correctly and under guidance and supervision, it looks like have a positive impact for mental health. So I think the big thing is people who like to get high are there's studies to support it, so I can get high whenever I want. That's not actually how it works. I think you need to use them in sort of a targeted fashion. So there are some places like rehabs and stuff that I've had a couple of interesting conversations with medical directors from international institutions that use things like ibogaine and stuff like that. And I've had people use ayahuasca and stuff like that, patients of mine who've reported good results. But a lot of people also just get high with this shit and they don't get better. So something you have to be careful about. Okay, so it is 8:25 my time, and I think we're going to have to transition to meditation because we've been streaming for 2.5 hours and I'm getting tired. So if you guys have follow-up questions, post them in the Discord. So someone's asking, I'll ask just what about blood tests. So I think the three things that tend to be correlated with depression, first of all, make sure you're not anemic. So check your blood levels, because if you're feeling tired, you could have a physiologic cause for depression. It could be anemia. thyroid, vitamin D, and B12. So any of those deficiencies, if you have a thyroid problem, you can be depressed. That can cause depression. Low B12 is going to lead to low energy. Vitamin D is associated with depression, and then anemia. Those are the 4 things that when I have a person who clinically comes in, those are the things that I test. So talk to your doctors about that stuff. Don't go and just get the lab. So like go to your doctor and say, hey, I have depression. What do you think about testing these lab values, and see what they say.